All right, and we should be live for the Steelers Depot live stream here on this Monday, August 31st, with the cut date coming up. Let me go ahead and pull up the video for you guys. Join the chat, and as always, is with me, Dave Bryan. Dave, how you doing?
Doing good. Happy Monday. 2 weeks. 2 weeks to go. 2 week warning.
Let me mute my own audio here. All right, we're good to go. Yeah, we are getting pretty close to it. All right, so we got a good number of people in the chat already. We got Steve, Jason, Mutated Genome, Patrick, Daniel, Brian. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you're new to the chat or haven't been here in a while, Dave and I are here until 8 p.m. Run this for an hour every Monday, answering any and all of your Steelers questions. And Dave, just to touch on it briefly, because I want to talk about it more for the podcast tomorrow, but I was floored Friday when this team showed us full 11 on 11 sessions. And they're never going to do it again. That was a one time thing. I don't know what compelled them to do that, but that was like your first ever watching training camp, I guess it would be, huh?
Yeah, I guess that from an 11-11 standpoint,
Hmm.
absolutely. Yeah. Now, obviously, you wish the camera was panned out a little bit, but
There was
beggars.
definitely someone in the cameraman's ear saying, do not zoom out.
Yeah, yeah, beggars can't be choosy, but there was enough there that you can make a few tiny observations, I think. So, look, I mean, it is what it is. We see other teams around the league cover it. Yeah, the Steelers are always going to be kind of try to have a level of secrecy to it and not put too much out there. And the fact, I guess, that they did do that a little bit the other night was a little bit surprising, and it wasn't much, but once again, beggars can't be choosy. You gotta
Hmm.
gotta gotta take what you can get, right?
Exactly, and yeah, it was more than what I thought this team would ever do, and learned enough to at least write a little practice report right up on that. All right, let's get to your guys' questions. Again, we can leave them in the chat below for Dave and I to answer. We'll start off with Mutated Genome, who says, "So who are the current receivers in camp? My head is spinning trying to keep up with the roster changes. Yeah, receivers definitely been a revolving door with guys like C. Blacknall coming on and off the roster. Team just signed DeAndre Tompkins, former Penn Stater, who had his first practice with the team today. So yeah, Anthony Johnson is gone. Switzer's back from injury. Deontay Johnson also back from injury. So it has been a little chaotic there, but I think this group's kind of getting healthy and kind of getting settled in.
Yeah, weird kind of merry-go-round there, right?
Hmm.
Obviously Anthony Johnson's injury kind of precipitated, Blacknell coming back, and obviously Switzer going down. We saw, I don't know how much of a, obviously with Ray coming in, and then DeAndre Tompkins and all like that. Really, they got one more body, I think, than what they need right now. But yeah, look, I mean, half these guys aren't going to be here by Saturday. A few of them are going to wind up in on the practice squad, and I think there's quite a push now to see, can a guy like Ray McLeod, you know, make a legitimate push for the 53, or is he a legitimate practice squad guy?
Hmm.
And then a guy like Tompkins, you would think that he just doesn't have enough time coming in this late and all, but is he a guy that's gonna, that might resurface in the middle of the season on the practice squad? Should
Right.
should some sort of moves? I have a feeling that where some of these guys who are cut and maybe don't make the practice squad ultimately, I'm probably going to hear one or two of their names again later on in the season.
Yeah, would not be surprising seeing these guys circle back on an emergency type note, especially with 16-man practice squads in the COVID landscape. You can see a lot of that roster shuffling happening throughout the week. And as you mentioned about Ray McLeod, I'm putting up your latest roster prediction that has one Mr. Ray McLeod and Ryan Switzer making the roster. So you can check that out, you guys over on Steelers Depot. And next,
Yeah, I'm all ready to jump off of that one.
yeah, I put
uh,
Ray on my practice squad. I think he's going to make it on the practice squad.
Yeah, and just kind of a kind of a shout out today. We have a new film room up this morning on Ray McLeod, done by our newest contributor Tyler Wise. We got Tyler started a day earlier than probably what we thought we might do. Tyler's a really good football mind. I thought he did a excellent job on this breakdown of Ray McLeod here, and I think if you watch this and watch the included gifs and all like that, It brings into question. Look, I said right from the start, Ray has ball issues,
Mhm.
and those kind of things combined with, look, if Ryan Switzer didn't look like he was going to recover from this, maybe a chance. And going into the other day when I put my 53-man roster, latest one out, kind of unsure about where Switzer was with this injury. But now that Switzer's back, and yeah, I'm kind of ready to jump off the Ray train right now.
Jump off the Ray McLeod train. Although he's versatile. He even got a carry in that Friday practice. They even gave him the ball once in the backfield, so just a little feather in his cap. Patrick Donovan, Sean Surratt said something interesting about Dotson. If it wasn't for time missed and the way the offseason went, he would have got a look and try at left guard. If DeCastro can't go week 1, do you think it will be Dotson? No, it will be Wisniewski. Will be next man up as an interior swingman for all the reasons that Surratt mentioned. Had you had a normal offseason, potentially that equation would have changed. But given just the lack of spring and Dawson's own knee injury that cost him roughly a week or so, it's going to be Steven Wisniewski as that first man up for the interior positions.
I'm with you I'm with you in totality, but I'm not sure I'd go bet the house on that. You
Well,
know,
you're with me in totality. What's
yeah,
left?
but yeah, placing a bet on it,
Okay.
is what's left there. Uh, to hear the buzz right now, obviously not being there, but got a little glimpse, I think, from the practice the other night. Got Kevin Dotson got thrown in there. I think was a couple snaps with the ones there. Sounds like he handled himself pretty good. All right. Now, once again, we don't have have the footage or anything, or any training camp practice stuff to go over. But this guy's natural position obviously was right guard.
Mhm.
If we were talking more about a left guard position here, slam dunk. And that's Wisniewski's kind of wheelhouse there. Now, Wisniewski has played right guard, I think, some throughout his NFL career. I think mostly his work, though, has been left guard and center. Not that that's a huge deal there, but I just want to leave the window cracked just a tiny bit for the chance that if indeed DeCastro is unable to go,
Mhm.
that just maybe a guy like Dotson can sneak in there.
Yeah, I mean that's fair enough, especially since you are talking right guard, which is Dawson's natural positions, where he started all 52 games at Louisiana Lafayette. So fair point there. We'll see. Let's just hope it doesn't
And,
get to
and
that
plus,
point where DeCastro is available for week 1.
right. Right. And your whole thing too, man. Do you want your backup center and your starting center? You want to put the best combination
Hmm.
out there, and the combination that you trust the most, not to make mistakes. And obviously, Wisniewski has been around this league for years now. Knows all three interior positions, knows how to communicate that. And look, another interesting aspect of that is you would have a rookie guard going against really essentially a new right tackle
Right.
over there as well too, and you can set yourself up for a little maybe communication
Hmm.
issue there with your guard being so in tune just to know, just to do his job, kind of thing there. So yeah, I'm with you. Like I said, for the most part, Wisniewski, but I just leave the window cracked just a little bit there. Look, you hear Dotson talk today, right? I mean, hell of a kid. I
Yeah,
mean,
you
he
gave a Dirt Dawson comp, not
man.
in some sense at least to him.
Right, just in demeanor and
Hmm.
thinking, trying to think back to my head and hearing the old audio and stuff like that. And when Dirt Dawson talked as a rookie there, this kid really sounds like, and we haven't gotten a chance to hear from him much of any, throughout since he was drafted there. But it sounds like he's got his head screwed on, real tight there. So
Hmm.
yeah, I didn't mean that in play, which I
Right.
mean, obviously Dotson's college tape is just fantastic. But he's obviously got a lot to prove to get on the Dirt Dawson level as far as the play goes. I'm just talking about just the way he kind of his demeanor and the way he handles himself here right out of the
Hmm.
shoot.
But hey, Dotson sounds pretty similar. Has a good ring to it.
Hey, there you go.
There you go. Daniel Liscano. Hey, Alex, how's it going? Doing well, Daniel. How are you? Who do you think will end up being wide receiver 1 this season? I have a feeling that'll be Johnson versus Claypool. Also, how concerning is McFarland's current situation? To the latter, McFarland is through concussion protocol, was on the field today, though did not practice. So just don't know. He'll have to go through the protocol and whatever the doctors say. So we'll keep an eye on that. To your first question about receiver 1, I'm still going Juju. I think Deontay Johnson has the best chance to push him for a statistical receiver one type numbers. Claypool, I love the hype. I love what I'm hearing so far on him, but I'm not going to go that far and say he's going to be this number one receiver as a rookie.
Yeah,
Dave?
I mean, look, I mean, I don't like to get into the one or two, but I
Hmm.
mean, obviously, when you have two wide receivers out there to start things off out there, it's going to be Deontay and Juju. When where you go from there when you get into 11 personnel and those kind of things, I think we've come to kind of the conclusion that Claypool is going to get some degree of offensive snaps right out of
Yep.
shoot. I tend to think it's going to be a red zone package or two. That would make the most sense, especially when you go back and look at his college tape. Guy uber productive and that kind of big body guy. Man, I tell you, it's kind of scary. You think about having to face off against guys like Juju and Claypool and Ebron inside the red zone. That's going to cause some defenses, I think, a little bit of matchup problems and give Ben some decent targets to kind of body up in the end zone with there. Outside of that, obviously, I think you're going to see James Washington as the Z in some 11 personnel groupings, and it's up to James Washington to ward off that competition, if you will, outside. If he's able to get downfield, if he's able to make plays right out of the shoot as that Z in the 11 personnel, then that's going to probably hinder Claypool getting on the field in those kind of situations. However, if Washington blows a few chances out of the chute, it's going to open up the door a little bit for Claypool to show what he has in there. And then obviously we're going to see at some point probably a little bit of four wide receiver groupings here and there. But I think one and two, whatever number you want to call them. I mean, look, this isn't an A-B situation just yet here. So I think one and two are going to be Juju and Deontay, just however you want to number them.
Yeah, and to your earlier point, I will have a very mild take here. The Steelers will not have the 32nd ranked red zone offense like they did last year.
There you go.
Calling my
Don't
shot on
don't
that one.
don't don't go out on a limb there.
Yeah. Bet in the house. Patrick says hello. Brian also says what it is, Alex and Dave. Hey, Brian, thanks for being here.
Howdy, people. Thanks for joining us
Yep.
tonight.
As always, be sure to leave a question in the comment section for Dave and I to answer. We'll be here till 8 o'clock. Travis Herco, hey, don't forget, every Steelers fan wants us to sign Fournette. I'll give Steelers Nation mostly good credit here. I think the majority of people have said that that's not going to happen, and it's certainly really no conceivable way that it will happen.
Yeah, none. I mean, the guy's got I mean, especially off waivers. The
Hmm.
guy's got $4 million on his 2020 salary, and I mean, it's just unfathomable.
Right, right.
Even if he clears waivers, which it sounds like he might. He's the only way he lands in Pittsburgh would be like on a 2-year contract with both years being minimum salary, and then maybe you gave him like a $500,000 signing bonus. I mean, and Fournette would be absolutely stupid to take such a deal. And look, I mean, there's a couple of good posts running around, and I think I retweeted one earlier today. If you just look at from a performance standpoint, a statistical performance standpoint alone on what Fournette did last year, just absolutely awful. And look, I mean, the guy's got a couple of big runs. He's had some good games against the Steelers, but man, there's no way I want that in my locker room right now. Let him go land somewhere else and get you 3 yards per carry or
Hmm.
something like that. I will be absolutely shocked if he lands with the Steelers.
I'm with you, though he does have success against Pittsburgh. His highest yards per carry of any team he's faced at least twice is Pittsburgh. He's got the second most yards against the Steelers, which aren't even, of course, an AFC South opponent, and tied for the most rushing touchdowns. So has a whole lot of success versus Pittsburgh, but I do not see it happening. I'm happy with the running back room the way it is right now. Wes Hickok says, Dave, Alex, good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, Wes. We have a question we'll get to in a moment. John and Samantha are here as well. We're doing well, John. Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate it. Wes Hickok, I'm going to ask a follow up on my question earlier on Twitter. I know we ain't got the money, but in a perfect world, is there any value skill wise Fournette would add to the team? I know it's not going to happen, nor am I suggesting it necessarily want to. So the question is there any value skill wise Fournette would add to the team? Yeah, I just think he's kind of redundant. Like, what is he going to offer that Benny Snell doesn't already bring? I guess a little more as a receiver because Fournette caught a decent amount of passes last year, but didn't do a whole lot with it. So, from that standpoint, it just feels very redundant in that room.
Yeah, I mean, other than short yardage, really. I mean, No, I mean, even if you go back and look at his receptions and the productivity comparatively to some other running backs around the league, it's just not there.
Hmm.
There is I can't see any reason other than a couple of injuries where a guy like Fournette would become attractive to you. Now he's going to land. Somebody's going. I mean, even a guy like Trent Richardson, a couple years ago, still managed to land on his feet somewhere. Former first round draft pick in the pedigree. Somebody's going to give this guy a chance. All
Right.
right. But I think you're going to just kind of see a kind of a repeat of the Trent Richardson kind of situation here, and wherever he lands, maybe he finishes out. I don't think he's long for personally overall for the NFL.
If Mark Barron can cling on to that first round status the way he is, Fournette can do it for a little bit longer at least. Jason Tatum says Jerry O said he's happy to have Allen in his position room. Don't you think the move to inside linebacker is permanent? I don't know if I would say permanent. I think it's partially just because you only have literally four inside linebackers on this team right now, and then Marcus Allen being the fifth. So I think that it's just part of that evolution of those strong safety dime backer types that can kind of run both. So I think they're getting exposure to that because there is a need for it right now. Maybe it's permanent, but I'm not at that point quite yet.
It sure is a curious, isn't it? And kind of a curious move there overall. But Marcus, most of his successes, I think, dating back to Penn State was in the box, right?
Hmm.
Inside the tackles, within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage there. This guy obviously isn't in every down inside linebacker. He's kind of a break glass in case of emergency dime backer,
Right.
a guy that can turn and run if need be. Even so, I'd be hesitant to put him up against some of these better athletic tight ends,
Hmm.
in the league, that kind of thing as well too. Uh, he is a guy that's I think one main takeaway coming out of Jerry, who by the way was absolutely great. If any of you haven't had a chance to go to Steelers.com and actually watch Jerry O's Zoom session today, it's fantastic. And it's not we don't get to hear from him very often, about twice maybe during a year anyway. That Marcus likes to hit, and that's obviously good news as well too. Sounds like he's a pretty quick learner on top of it. This is a guy that a couple 3 4 weeks ago kind of questionable about his 53-man roster spot, but right now kind of hard kind of a guy that's kind of hard to vote off of a 53-man roster because of that added position
Hmm.
flexibility, and because of the fact that he can play some special teams and should be pretty decent at that.
Yeah, just a little ahead of the curve compared to a rookie like Antoine Brooks, understandably so. So he seems to have the inside track right now. Patrick Donovan seems like Ray Ray and Will Allen will make the roster. I assume you're referring to Curtis Riley there when you refer to Will Allen. With McLeod, I still think practice squad, but I think a strong bet for the practice squad, especially now that Switzer is back and seems healthy. And then Riley, yeah, I think Riley's got a really good chance to make it. He appears to be working first team when they've had an injury to Terrell Edmonds, who returned today, but when he was out, Riley was next man up.
How about some breaking news for you,
Nope, hit
Alex?
me.
The Indianapolis Colts have released fullback Roosevelt Nix.
Oh, Rosie. That's sad.
Yeah, I wonder if that's going to be injury related. I don't think I saw him on the sheet today. I don't know if that was made official today, but it's on the Colts official Twitter account there.
Mm.
So, going to be interesting to see if maybe that's injury related. Poor guy. I mean, well, hey, look, one of your favorites, one of my favorites,
Yeah.
right?
I talked to
You
him this
know,
summer, and he said how excited he was to be part of the Colts, and fortunately, not going to happen.
yeah. All right. So carry on.
Well, now I'm depressed. Now I just want to go home and cry. All right. Kim Chelbus says, just wanted to simply say hi. You guys are doing an excellent job. Thank you so much, Kim. I appreciate it. John Pennington, what would it take to get out of this financial mess to sign their own players, and whose fault would this be, Dave? Whose fault is this? No one's fault, really, in a sense.
It's a blame you want blame it on the coronavirus. To be
Yeah.
honest with you here, because if we were looking ahead, look, I mean technically they're fine where they're at in 2020, the current year that we're on now. They had to go through hell, and is glad that the CBA worked out the way it did, or else they were going to have some trouble creating some cap space because of the limits of that 30% rule that we talked about a lot in the restructure and all like that. But once that CBA issue extension got done, that allowed them to do what they like to do on the extensions. Now, look, do they still have some work to do between now and the next 2 weeks? Absolutely. They've got to free up probably around at least 3.5 to 4, maybe $5 million in cap space here, because what they have right now in nearly $4 million in cap space is already spoken for when you talk about a 16-man practice squad and you talk about a 52nd and a 53rd man on the roster there. So something's coming. It's going to be a restructure on DeCastro or Tuitt, and we're still keeping our fingers crossed that maybe something gets done with Cameron Hayward and it frees up a little bit money there. Now, moving forward into 2021, where I like to call them cap challenges, if you will. It's all going to be dependent on how the rest of this how the income comes in for the NFL the rest of this season here. The sooner they can get fans, some level of fans in this thing right away, the better. Obviously, there. Even if you're looking at a flat cap, I think ideally, kind of the best case scenario in my head right now is a flat is the cap remaining at 198.2, which is what it was this year for 2021. That's the best case scenario, and if that happens, I mean, we're already kind of working off of a $175 million low ball number, so it's going to feel like a huge gift if it remains at 198.2, because that's going to feel like $23 million got freed up there. It's not much of a look. The Steelers if the pandemic didn't happen
Hmm.
and the 2021, you're going to see you were scheduled to have a huge rise in 2021 with all this new TV money, and they would absolutely be in fantastic shape. Heck, Hayward would probably be done right now, and heck, you could probably be talking about maybe staring at potentially maybe even being able to franchise tag a guy like Juju if it came to that next off season, if this pandemic didn't happen. So, I mean, if you want to blame it on something, you blame it on the pandemic. I
Yeah.
mean, that and, it goes along with the sins of the franchise quarterback, if you will, on top of it, and having to restructure him. But that's really, to be quite honest with you, the root of the problem.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. No one could predict that. And had the pandemic not happened, this team would be in relatively good financial shape. We wouldn't be having these really difficult conversations and the gloom and doom outlook on how many guys you're going to lose next year. Caitlin Clark says, hello, everyone. I hope you guys are having a great Monday. Doing well, Caitlin. Thank you for being here. Donald Nolan, do you see Liam McCullough getting stashed on the practice squad if they end up sticking with Cameron Canaday at long snapper? I don't know if they'll carry an extra long snapper, but I'm pretty convinced they're going to carry some sort of kicker, punter, ideally someone who can do both. I know they've worked out a couple of those guys over the weekend. Corliss Waitman, I think, has a little bit of background with both, mostly a punter, but maybe a little bit of kicking background as well. And so I think that's probably where you keep an extra guy on the practice squad in case of injury or illness, or whatever the case is. With long snapper, though, I think you just have McCullough on speed dial.
It sure feels like they're going to keep a punter slash kicker, right?
Yeah, and they'd
And
be smart to do so.
just to have something in a pinch there. As far as the long snapper goes, I guess it all depends on what's going on with Canada's knee.
Right.
But one would think with 2 weeks to, they're just letting him rest up right now. And look, I mean, it gives you a couple weeks here to get a good look at that other kid.
Mm-hmm.
Should something happen mid-season here, right?
Right. Right.
So uh, you know, I mean, Lord knows how this is going to play out, what the pandemic is going to cause with a 16-man practice squad and people being fearful of the virus and all like that. Yeah, you could see a punter, you could see kicker, you could see a fourth quarterback. I'm not. I'm not going to say it's definitely not going to be a long snapper, but assuming Canada's got some help, I would tend to think that they would might just keep one on speed dial, like Alex said.
Steeler Nation highlights. I was waiting for everyone to flood Dave when Fournette was released, but if the guy didn't have attitude problems, wouldn't he have some teams lining up relatively cheap and he's played well? Let's see. He could get claimed, as Dave said, and I do think he'll find a team relatively quickly, assuming that he does not get claimed. So I think he'll have some suitors. It's just not going to be Pittsburgh for the reasons we outlined earlier. And he also asked, by Tomlin's comments, I don't think the Castro injury is too bad. Is it that they say what he's dealing with? Tomlin called it lower body, so we're doing the whole hockey thing. We don't really know anything more specific than that. I couldn't get a good gauge on the potential severity of it. It sounded relatively positive, talking about working his way back, couple days, that kind of stuff. But it's hard to really gauge with Tomlin sometimes. Did you have any feeling for maybe how serious is the Castro injury could be based on what Tomlin said?
Man, I just I mean, obviously, we're not going to get a lot out of Tomlin. I didn't expect much, but a whole lower body thing, and he just, he didn't. I didn't get warm and fuzzies
Hmm.
today.
Yeah, he
Let
says.
me put it that way, and I'll just leave it at that because I don't know what else to say when it comes to that.
Yeah, he says, "quote We're managing it. He's managing it. Hopefully, he'll be back out there soon." So, could go either way on that one. No warm and fuzzies indeed. Richard Hudspeth, is Marcus Allen officially an inside linebacker now? No, we're not calling it officially. I think it's just really short lines at the position, gives him some more versatility, a chance to really kind of add to his resume, add to his value. Would not call him right now an official inside linebacker. See, next question here. Patrick Donovan and Clowney, Fournette, Earl Thomas. Steeler fans want every free agent. I think I've been pretty good about it this year, and the Clowney stuff was super out of left field. We didn't even write about it. That's how little I think of that report from Tony Pauline. So yeah, that was a weird one for sure. Steel Nation highlights. When do the Steelers announce practice squad and things like that? That's going to come on what, Sunday? Right, 24 hours after cut down.
Yeah, the cut down is Saturday at 4 is the 53, and probably by Monday that should be established, obviously,
Yeah, remember it's
with a practice squad.
60-man practice squad this year. You can have more veterans on there. So a guy like Jaron Elliott potentially, or someone like that, Raven McLeod, a more veteran guy, they're going to be eligible this year. I think you can have 6 of those veteran types. Should these
Are they coming to take you away?
you can
Haha.
hear that? Yeah, yeah, they've caught me. Should the Steelers sign Earl Thomas? This is from Joseph Fallen. No, the Steelers should not sign Earl Thomas, and I assume you're in full agreement there, Dave.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you can't afford him anyway, but yeah.
Ron 92. How is Gilbert the Third looking? From the reports, again, we're not there. He looks good, making plays, and it sounds like he's having a similar camp to what he had as a rookie last year when I was that St. Vincent reported on it. So don't know for sure, but I think this team's pretty confident about Gilbert as a potential next man up, and that's one reason I believe why they didn't add an inside linebacker. Haven't had a lot of urgency in doing that because they really like someone like UG3 who may not have a role this year. Maybe I think it go. I'm leaning towards no, at least out of the gate. You'll have Vince and Devin Bush and just play yourself package football. But maybe this time next year, if Vince Williams is gone, potential cap casualty there. Unfortunately, you could see UG3 really ascend into a larger role. But everything on UG3 so far has been positive. I know he missed time last year with a back injury, missed the back half of last season, but I've been really excited whenever he's been healthy and available. Wes Hickok, when we go 13-3, get the first round bye and win the Super Bowl. So Wes is calling a shot. Do you think Ben could retire? Follow up, let's say he did. What would that mean? The likely retirement for Pouncey, Villanueva, and De Castro. Also, to your first question about Ben, and retiring, I mean, if you take him literally at what he said earlier, it was a little bit tongue in cheek, but he talked about wanting to win Lombardis with an S, plural emphasis on that. So, in that sense, he may not, but if there was a time to go out, it would be winning a Super Bowl, just as his idol John Elway did. So, but the potential's there. But if you take Ben literally, he would want to come back for another Super Bowl run, and let's just categorize that as good problems to have. And then follow up in terms of retirement for other guys. I mean, Pouncey and Ben have always said they're going to go out together. When one retires, the other will. Will that actually happen? Who knows? But that would be the biggest impact. Where if Ben retires, your chances of Pouncey walking away probably go up somewhat significantly. Michael Galupo, who's the better fantasy grab, James Washington or Deontay Johnson? I would say Washington has more bigger play value, but Johnson's a little more consistent. And hopefully, I get to draft one of them tonight because I have a fantasy football draft at 9 o'clock. So, wish me luck there. Dave, any thoughts on? You're a big fantasy football guy, Washington or Johnson for someone's league?
Oh yeah, I think Johnson is the guy, depending on when you can get him. And I mean, I think the buzz from a couple weeks has probably cooled off a little bit on him over the last couple weeks. They're not much, but a little bit. Obviously missing a little bit of camp time there, but yeah, I mean, if you can get him in what, seventh, eighth, ninth round, right around there, absolutely, he's going to be the guy who's going to get a lot of targets there. And look, I think as Alex and I have said, kind of ceiling with him. Can he hit 1,000 yards? Yeah, he can hit 1,000 yards. I think more realistically, you're looking around, I don't know, 850 to 950 yards. I think would probably be the reasonable expectations. But and on top of that, I think six, seven, eight touchdowns, especially if he can get loose over the top. The good thing that we saw kind of throughout last season is he is a guy that can go vertical too. We saw that in a couple of times, the 49ers game, I think the Bengals game, and I think the Jets game, home run balls, if you will. And then we've seen the yards after the catch. This guy has got great footwork off the line of scrimmage, be able to get some good separation, going to get balls because of that, and able to make people miss in the open field. So that's going to lead to some yak on top of it. Washington's fine, but I think that the buying price on him is the value price on him is going to probably be much later
Hmm.
in your drafts there. I think he'll be hard pressed to hit last year's numbers. And let's face it, he hit last year's numbers probably because of Juju being sidelined and really them not having kind of any other Z to go
Hmm.
to. Maybe he can match those numbers, but to expect him to exceed those numbers, I think, is a little much. And then obviously with a guy like Chase Claypool, depending on when you can get him and what your scoring value is, and if there's a high level of if it's touchdown heavy.
Right.
Point scoring like that. You'll obviously. I mean, look, we've talked about it on the podcast. We could get 3 or 4 games, 6 games into this season, and Claypool might have you know 9 catches and 6 touchdowns for all we know. He's that kind of, you just kind of get that feel with him, at least initially here. So, yeah, I would look at more touchdown specific heavy scoring with him. And if you could get him later in the drafts, much later in the drafts, late, then yeah, that's when he becomes a value.
Yeah, it could be diminishing returns on Washington, where it's decent early in the year, but as Claypool chips away at some of those snaps, then that would hurt Washington's value. So Washington is really big play dependent. You maybe fly or late, but Johnson's the guy you're going to want between the two. Adam Cordich, do you see Fitzpatrick, Edmonds, and Riley on the field all at the same time with Minka and Riley deep and Edmonds down in the box to replace Vince Williams on long yardage passing situations? I'm with you 85% of the way, Adam. The only thing I would disagree there is that Cam Sutton is going to be that extra DB, not Curtis Riley, at least to start the year. They like Cam Sutton a lot, talked him up so much this training camp, the coaches, and Sutton's going to talk to with the media as well. So Sutton is going to be the sixth defensive back whenever everyone is healthy and hopefully have a big year. I think they'll expand dime defense. They did it about 16, 17% of the time last year. I think it'll be closer to 2018 numbers where it was sitting around 30 to 33%. So I think you'll see more dime defense this year, basically playing out with the way you're saying it, Adam, but with Cam Sutton instead of Curtis Riley.
Yeah, I'm all for not seeing Curtis Riley play one one single snap if we can help it this year. I mean, look, I mean he's obviously come in, he's made to read the reports, he's made some plays. That's the thing. You got guys like him and rookie undrafted free agent James Pierre. You look at some of these photos on Steelers.com. They got the football in their hands and they're defensive players, so that tells you a little something right there. And look, you need a backup free safety, and yeah, Riley's probably that guy, but I would just not have to watch him play many snaps if we could help it.
The question is, whenever injuries or COVID inevitably happens, then who's next man up from there? Who is the number seven DB? Could it be Curtis Riley? I think it's a good chance of that. Could it be Marcus Allen with the way they're talking him up right now? So, because Cam Sutton, if a Hilton were to go down, even outside corner were to go down, that may move Cam Sutton and have to find a new dime defender. So I'd be very interested to see how the team responds should that situation play out. Militant Minded says, if anything, sign a middle linebacker because Vince Williams is a weak link, in my opinion. Even if I grant you that, it'd be a weak link on a very, very good defense. So I've been a higher and bigger fan of Vince Williams than most people. I'm pretty confident with him still being in that more prominent role, a little closer to 2018, 2017 than where it was last year following Mark Barron's release. And so I've been a bigger fan of Vince Williams for a while now. I think his communication, his processing, football IQ, your Jerry Osofsky talked about what a professional he is, how he approaches the game, always gets better, always trying to work on something new in his game. So I think all those things are impressive with Vince Williams, and I'm confident with him as a starting Buck linebacker this year. Let's see. Yeah, Patrick Diamond says on Marcus Allen, not Will Allen. Yeah, I think Marcus Allen is going to make it along with Curtis Riley. Mark Miller, Steelers usually sign free agents late in the preseason. Is there an inside linebacker or other position you are looking at? Not really, Mark, not right now. I think they did their free agency signing kind of before and with Ray McLeod during training camp. So could you still see a trade of cut downs? Sure, totally possible. I don't know where that would be right now. I think unless it was an injury, and maybe if the Cashers injury was super significant, but even then, I don't think they're going to make a move. So I think that the roster is pretty much the guys they have right now are going to be part of that group for week one against New York. Let's see. If AB Junior goes to the practice squad, I expect him to get claimed. Who are we referring to with AB Junior? Do you have any idea, Dave, who AB Junior is? Is
I'm
that
not.
Antoine Brooks Jr.? Okay,
Oh, okay.
yeah. I know he said that every with these rookies, but without other teams getting to see these rookies in preseason, I think the chances of that and those guys getting claimed are lower than usual. And usually they're pretty low to begin with. Let's see. Patrick Donovan sounds like Big Dan is looking and doing great. Have you heard anything on Big Dan this camp, Dave?
Just, I mean, there's been a little bit of praise here and there from, well, mostly from his teammates, I think,
And
but
Mike
the really,
Brasuda, who loves Big Dan.
okay. And, but other than that, yeah, I can't say where I've seen that. No.
Yeah, he did. He has seemed like he's legitimately dropped weight. Don't think it's still enough for him to beat out Tyson Aluwalu for the starting nose tackle spot. We'll see if him or Bugs gets a hat on game day, though. That'd be very interesting. Mark White, does Ray McLeod knock Switzer out? I know we have Ben. Is there a better way to handle our cap situation? I am happy for the season, but almost sad or mad for what might come in the offseason. I feel you on the offseason. This roster will look very different a year from now. Mark, to your first question about McLeod knocking Switzer out, no, I think Switzer's spot, now that he's healthy, back practicing, all good news there. I think Switzer is very, very close to being a lock to make the team for his versatility, relationship with Ben. All those things are important to the team. And then with Ben, is there a better way to handle our cap situation? I know that's kind of an open-ended question, Dave, but how would you respond to that?
Yeah. How long do you have?
Go to 8.
Okay. I'll give you the Cliff Notes version, and for Dave, that Cliff Notes version is about 15 minutes
Takes us to
sometimes.
8
But
o'clock, I think. It's the Cliff
yeah,
Notes
yeah, that
version.
takes you. Now, look, you're gonna have some tough decisions during the offseason there. We need to find out in 2020 if Ben's still the same guy and how many more years he wants to play. I think you start with an extension for him, maybe save $4 or $5 million via an extension that way, and then you get into the restructure game. Of guys that you can restructure, you get into the cap casualties. I think you're looking at either McDonald being gone almost certainly. I think you got to look at Vince Williams potentially being gone. I think you look at maybe an extension for a guy like Steven Nelson. I think you take a long, hard look and let's see how Joe Hayden plays this year. I know it's blasphemy to suggest it right now, but just you're going to have to make some tough cuts there. And you really, if you look at the top, your top 10 highest salary cap charges, right now that are on the books for 2021. Not all those guys are going to be Steelers, I don't think,
Hmm.
in 2021. A few of them I think are going to get cut, and then a few of them I think are going to get extended, and then I think a few others are going to have. Look, I mean, a guy like David DeCastro would, we think is going to be right for an extension. That'll save you a little bit of money there as well. A guy like Watt, T.J. Watt, though, at some point next summer, you're probably going to have to pay him. Make him the highest paid defensive player in the NFL as well too, and that might make his cap number jump from 10 million up a couple million as a result of that as well. So they'll get around it because they have to be under the cap.
Hmm.
Obviously, keep your fingers crossed that they're able to start getting some people in the stadiums,
Right.
and that the revenues end up not taking as big a hit as maybe people thought. That's really one of the main things that you need to hope for, because that's at this point kind of free cap money, if you will. Even though we're dealing with the low ball number of 175 million, I still gotta wonder if the two sides, the NFL and the NFLPA, don't work something out, because the last thing that both sides want, I've said this right from the start of this whole thing, the last thing that the NFL and the NFLPA both want is for this cap to be much lower than 109 than what it was this year, which was 198.2 million dollars, because you're going to just wipe out a lot of middle class players,
Hmm.
not just the Steelers, but around the league there. So yeah, they'll get around it. Yeah, there's some people you can already maybe predict about having extensions and getting cut off the Steelers. And then the only other thing to kind of root for is that revenues come in better than much better than what they expected. Let's say four weeks ago.
Yeah, and just to touch on something you mentioned earlier, because I'll get back to Donald here in a second, but Mark had a follow up question, and you mentioned about potential cap casualties. Mark asked, can we cut low tier players to try it and sign some of our players that might be leaving this summer? I think that the first part of that, you're doing some of these cuts, potential cuts, just to get cap compliant. But who are some of those candidates, regardless of why you might be cutting them, Dave?
Oh, you mean next?
Hmm.
Come March
Yeah,
there.
yeah, like Vince and tight ends.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to keep both Vance and Eric Ebron. Okay,
Hmm.
both of them have base salaries due them over $5 million next year. And Alex and I talked just the other day on the podcast. There is a remote possibility that you're cutting both those guys. It all depends on the production that you get out of Eric Ebron. But I think it's safe to say that at least one of Vance or Eric Ebron are going to be gone come come the start of a new league year in March. Uh, Vince Williams is another guy, just that $4 million staring you in the face. And we'll see how he does this year, but he's going to have to do a lot to warrant that $4 million. Now, can you go to Vince and say, "Hey, we're going to cut you unless you take your salary down to a million, a veteran million"? I think that's possible, and in the process, you save about $3 million in the process. If he's not willing to do that, he's likely to be out on the street. So those are just a couple of guys there. Yeah, well, we're gonna watch. Like it or not, we're gonna watch Stefan Wisniewski. Maybe, he's a 2-year deal, meaning he's signed through 2021. What's his worth? Is he going to be worth that $1.4 million?
Hmm.
Odds are maybe yes, but what if you really need that money? And what if you're going to draft another center or another interior guy that's much cheaper than him? Chris Boswell. Hope Boswell has a great season because he's due a $3 million base salary in 2021. So that's another guy there. So I think those are the guys that you're looking at. Anybody under that, really, you're not going to save enough money to really
Right.
warrant doing anything with, because most of those guys outside, Minka has a 2.7 something million-dollar salary on the books in 2021. But obviously you're not going to
Hmm.
cut Minka. I don't think you're going to cut a guy like Derek Watt unless he has an injury-plagued season. Edmonds, you're not going to. It really would take something for him to get cut. And really you don't say. Look, if a guy makes a $2 million or less salary in 2021, when you look at the roster displacement, what it would cost to displace him and what's actually saved there, it really doesn't make a lot of sense on a lot of these guys. So look at your top 10 highest cap hits and go through those guys, and you'll get some answers when you go through. And people can look. I did that post about a week and a half ago, I think, on the top 10 highest cap charges and what's likely to happen with each.
Yeah, I think Vince and one of the tight ends are the two first places my mind goes when it goes to potential cap casualties for next season. But long season, see how it plays out, and revisit this conversation after the year. Donald Nolan, is Bugs being overlooked as a key depth piece along D line when guys are injured or need a rest? Yeah, I have not heard much on Bugs this year, but I was really impressed by his small sample size, but 75 snaps last year, his quickness, his hand use, just overall, just kind of felt like he wasn't this wide-eyed rookie. Part of it was because he got to sit and watch and learn. That helps you then as opposed to playing right away. But I was impressed with him in 75 snaps last year. And if a guy like Worthling's going to continue with availability issues and just struggle to get on the field, then that will obviously open the door for Bugs with Alu getting kicked to nose tackle. Will potentially create some more snaps for Isaiah Bugs. So I don't know where he's going to be. Don't know what his role is going to be right away, especially with Tua returning. But I liked what I saw in limited action from Isaiah Bugs last season. Militant Minded, how is Gentry doing? By reports, pretty good. It's been improvement as a blocker, which is not surprising considering how raw he was.
It couldn't get
last-
worse, could he?
yeah, could it would hard to be hard to get worse. But yeah, him as an underclassman when he declared last year, being a raw tight end at that, a former receiver when he first came to Michigan, he been a quarterback in high school and is out New Mexico. No surprise in year two for him. It's very common for those guys to improve their pad level, improve as a blocker, and so some of those reports are positive, but to be expected. So he'll make the team as the number 3 tight end this year and probably ascend to number 2 tight end type roles at some point whenever Vance and or Ebron's not available. Chris W, how is Tuzar Skipper doing? We don't hear anything about him. Where is he on the depth chart? I think he's fighting for the number 5 outside linebacker spot. And Dave, there weren't many differences between our roster predictions, but one of them was you had Jaron Elliott on the 53 as that number 5 outside linebacker. I still kept Tuzar Skipper at number 5. Why did you ultimately give the nod to Elliott over Skipper?
Yeah, I found it a bit surprising. The move. Now, obviously, we found out after the rookie undrafted free agent was cut that he decided to retire. Now, I
Mhm.
don't know if we now, did he maybe go to the Steelers and say, "Look, I think I'm done," and then they waived him, and then the 49ers claimed him, and then found out that was the case? We don't obviously don't know there. I just found that move kind of curious. Why you bring in a guy like J. Elliott last minute like that, and he's got some special teams ability. He was on the roster for what 4 or 5 games last year. Tuzar's okay on special teams. Which one maybe understands the defense better? It really hard to tell. It was just more of sit up, take notice of kind of the
Mhm.
curiousness of the actual move with J. being on the other side of it. That kind of led me to do that. But look, I'm not married to it. I really do think it could go either way with Tuzar or J. Elliott there. So
Mhm.
I think special teams obviously going to play. Look, I mean, you could be talking about they only dress 4 outside linebackers anyway, so it might be more insignificant. The special teams ability of either one of those guys overall might be kind of insignificant because either one of those guys could be on the inactive list week 1 there. So it was
Right.
just more of a sit up and take notice of, hey, why did they do this, and probably reading a little bit too much into it. But it could go either way between Skipper or Elliott being at number 5.
Agreed. You could argue for both. I still went with Skipper just because you can have more veterans on the practice squad this year. In previous years, a guy like Elliott wouldn't be eligible. This year, he would be. And I think something that Tomlin touched on is one reason why they signed some of those guys like Riley and Smallwood and McLeod. And they did lose Skipper to waivers last year. They didn't miss him too terribly much, obviously, but I think they just don't want to take that chance to lose him again, potentially. And so that'd be the reason to send Elliott to the practice squad instead. And you can swap those spots really quickly and easily if you really had to, if an injury were to come up, because I agree that number 5 outside linebacker is unlikely to start the year dressed on game days. Special teams value matters a little bit less if that guy's going to be inactive to start the year. Let's see. Mark White. Corliss Waitman can punt, kick field goals, and hold. Sign him, cut Barry, and save some money. Have a backup kicker right there. Go to YouTube and watch his video from well-known kicking camp. I think that, again, they'll keep a kicker punter, either Waitman or one of the guys they've worked out. Who's that Castillo and Richie Leone? One of those guys will probably be on the practice squad. But don't think they're going to cut Barry because like it's directional punting and just that whatever chemistry may exist as a holder relationship with him and Boz. Unless Barry would have face plant during the year, I think he's going to be your punter at least to begin the season.
Yeah, I think they'll have a short leash on him, but I'm waiting. Look, how much can you find out about? And Danny Smith said as much.
Hmm.
It's gonna be tough to find out about a young. Now, if they had a full training camp, full off season program, full obviously preseason. Heck, I mean, you could find out a lot about a guy probably in 5 preseason games. It's just so hard, and look, the holding aspect of it. There's just so many little things that we kind of take for granted. Oh, just put him out there and hold and let him punting the ball down the field. That's all there is to it. It goes a lot more deeper than that, and there's the whole trust factor. I'm not saying it can't happen. I mean, because obviously, we've seen veteran punters go in the past there, but you would just think that the comfortability factor, at least, and the fact that you really don't save all that much money by making that switch cap wise right out of shoot there. You better, in short, you better have a damn good reason to move on from Barry, especially for a rookie undrafted free agent.
The infamous Tim with two questions. How do you think the play calling on the offense side of the football will change this year since Ben is back? I mean, in a somewhat return to 2018 with the freedom, more creativity, just don't feel so restricted. All those obvious things that come with going from Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges to Big Ben. The addition of Matt Canada, I think, is going to have more pre snap motion, some more window dressing, which is, I think, a breath of fresh air into this offense. So they'll obviously hopefully pass less than they did in 2018 when they led the league. Been through what 675 times, which is just a crazy amount. But I think it'll just go back to something that at least conceptually looks like 2018 with some more pre-snap motion and hopefully a little better balance when it comes to pass run ratios.
Yeah, what he said.
And the second part of the question, which is a pretty quick answer here. So Bud Dupree said they were close to getting a deal done that was 2 years, 200 million, but he said no, so Cam could get paid. What's your thoughts? Dupree was joking about that. I would love to know how close they came, but I think that was Dupree's way of getting to not answer the question about how close they came to an agreement or not.
And I think whoever just asked that question, I think they read into the part that caught my ears the most. Wondering really is Cam going to get the deal?
Right.
I know that's just a tiny bit of it, and you can't really read too much into it. But once Cam's name came out, I mean, obviously we know the whole he was being funny about the rest of it all. But look, going to be interesting to see what happens these final 2 weeks with Cam.
Yeah, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, but Dupree's joke about an absurd number like that kind of tells me they probably weren't that close, didn't have too many conversations about it. Just my take on the situation. Either way, didn't happen. Wes Hitchcock, just wanted to take a moment to compliment both Alex and Dave. You do an awesome job keeping up with everything and delivering content. Thank you so much, Wes. We appreciate it.
It's
Hunt.
a group. It's a group
Mhm.
effort, boy. You ought to see what's going on underneath the surface of the water with these ducks paddling.
Yeah, the group chat is
Uh,
pretty intense sometimes.
Boy, we got some great people contributing. And by the way, we're losing Daniel Valente, who just put up a very nice, touching message up on the Twitter machine. He's moving on. I don't want to ruin his surprise or whatnot that he's got. Probably sure he'll probably release it tomorrow or next couple days. But he's going to be able to go full time in the biz, and I took him underneath my wing. 4 years ago, Alex is
Wow, it's been that long.
you know, uh, and boy, to watch Daniel grow in really all areas of everything that he did, the writing, the stats, the tape, boy, his draft profiles, and just his weekly contributions and all like that. Really going to miss Daniel, and we never know if we might get him back sometime down the road. So if you get a chance, hop on Twitter and wish Daniel well, and I'm sure you'll hear a little bit more from Daniel in the next 24 or 48 hours about what he's got going on new with him.
Yeah, we're sad to see him go, but we're very excited for his future and went out on a high note with that great Anthony McFarlane report, which kind of helped both of us because we didn't
Sure
watch him
did.
as much to kind of frame and get a jump start on getting a read on McFarland. Hunter Malhotra, how do you think our run defense will perform this season with Javon Hargrave being replaced with Tyson Alu? I don't think you'll see a significant drop off. I really like. I warmed up to the idea of having him in the middle, Alu, just because of how technical he is, how good his hand use is, understanding a leverage, his effort, and that while he's never really played nose tackle before, he's a veteran. It's not foreign to him. So obviously Hargrave's a better player. It's going to hurt you with some one gapping stuff. Adding Stephon Tuitt back, getting him healthy will be important to help soothe that loss. But I don't think you'll see a significant drop off. Though we'll find out pretty quickly because you're facing Saquon Barkley and the Giants week one.
Absolutely. Good test right out shooting. I think with Devin Bush being another year experienced and knowing knowing gaps and read and react, and that should help to some degree on top of it. We all know how good Vince, especially
Hmm.
when opposing offenses are going big. We know Vince is main contributor against the run, so no, I'm not overly worried. And my hopes is that you get teams, because you have been back, you're able to get opposing offenses out of out of their run game maybe a little bit earlier because you're putting some points on the board early in games as well too. So I don't have a reason to be worried yet, and we'll see if that changes right out of the chute in week one.
Brenton717, would either of you take Claypool late in a keeper fantasy league? Yeah, I take a flyer on that for sure, and maybe just try to stash him to later in the season because he could have value added late. I get a 20 team league I'm drafting in an hour, so Claypool may be on my radar there because it's hard to find guys to draft in a 20 team fantasy football league. A couple more questions before we wrap up the stream. Militant Minds talking about McFarland at DeMatha. Yeah, he was an excellent player for DeMatha High School. That's a big time program down there. The kid says, is Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool the new AB and Martavis Bryant skill wise? In a general sense of Deontay to AB and Claypool to Bryant in terms of the skill set, sure. Although obviously we're not talking about, at least not yet anyway, them being as good as either of those guys were at their peak.
Yeah, they got a lot to prove, and look, one of the biggest things I've said about Claypool right out of the chute is the biggest thing I'm wanting to see if he can do at the NFL level is that win vertical against a good cornerback press coverage and winning vertical, the way Martavis used to. We've seen obviously Claypool win down the field, contested catch, those kind of things, situations. But can he get over the top on some people and just flat out home run that way? That's one thing that we really didn't see a lot of, much of any, honestly, at Notre Dame there, that we want to see if he can do at the NFL level. That's really the only concern I have about him is his ability to win vertically down the field.
Wes Hickok, I don't know if you can answer this. Do you have any ballpark idea how much a team like the Steelers makes per home game in ticket sales revenue, or rather
Oh
how much
Lord.
they'll lose? There was a post that estimated losses for each team. I don't remember where Pittsburgh was at, but I think there was Forbes or someone did something on that. I think.
Yeah, I've got it
I think I saw it
somewhere
from you.
here.
I forget what it is.
Yeah,
Maybe you can look that up as I go through the next question. But there is a ballpark number. It's obviously going to be a significant amount of money lost. There's no arguing that. Michael Wu, hey Dave and Alex, first time catching the stream live. Thank you for being here, Michael. We hear Ben say, "Let's see what young quarterback does in their second year." Do you think Ben winning a Super Bowl in his second year has anything to do with that? Obviously, I'm mostly joking, but thought it was a funny connection. Yeah, I mean, I think there's actually maybe a little kernel of truth. That's a guy that probably, yeah, he obviously knows what's your first year like. All the success Ben had his first year to the second year. Where granted they won a Super Bowl, but they weren't a 15-1 team like they were his rookie year. They squeaked in as a six seed, barely made the playoffs and had to go on a crazy playoff run. So, yeah, I think that that's part of it. And then just as Ben would say, as Dave says, just how do you see once defenses react to you, once they know who you are, your strengths, weaknesses, have an offseason to prepare and add different schematic wrinkles and things like that. You're just less of a surprise. So yeah, there's a kernel of truth to that, just based on Ben's own experience of playing football.
I found it, Alex.
Okay.
Ticket IQ had it on their blog a couple of days ago. The Steelers, let's see, market value by team. Let's see, ticket market loss. It says just kind of an average. Let's see what they base this on. But anyway, they have the Steelers potentially 100 and almost 183 million. Yeah,
Um,
potential corona. This is potential coronavirus impact on the NFL ticket market. With so much uncertainty about the 2020 NFL season, we put together an estimated the potential ticket market value losses if games were canceled or played without fans. That estimate is based on secondary market value, number of seats, number of games canceled as of 2 days before the event cancellations. This is not precise measure, but the simplest way to benchmark the magnitude of losses by team. And Steelers are kind of right in the middle on this chart at almost 183 million.
Yeah, a lot of money for sure. A couple more questions will fly through. Michael Jackson, which opponents are you most concerned about this season? Very easy answer. AFC North, mobile quarterbacks, good running attacks, some good defenses overall. The Bengals are even improving with their O-line. Their O-line's not going to be the sieve that it was last season with Jonah Williams returning to left tackle. So easy answer, but AFC North I think is going to be pretty tough, pretty competitive. Muhammad Al Ali. Haven't heard much from UG3. Just people saying he's having a good camp. Do you think he can replace? I lost my place there. Replace Vince next year in the Steelers transition to faster coverage linebacker. There's potential just because of Vince Williams' cap casualty situation. So hopefully we'll learn more about UG3 this year if he does get an opportunity to play on defense, and of course should have a pretty strong role on special teams. Have a super chat from Soulcraft. Thank you very much. No message there, but does have a follow up question. Any word on DeCastro? Tomlin's calling it a lower body injury. Says they're managing it, but has not really given a whole lot of concrete updates, which is what you would expect from Mike Tomlin. So thank you very much for the super chat, Soulcraft. Let's see here. The infamous Tim, would you personally re-sign James Conner? If so, what type of contract would you give him? I would not, especially just given the cap situation. And Dave, I imagine you feel the same way.
Yeah, it would have to. We would have to really see something happen because of NFL revenues and the cap increase. That's the only way that Connor's going to come into play, and really, for that matter, Juju as well too. Is if something happens and revenues are higher and the cap actually go, because look, I mean, there is Connor's probably, if things go well for Connor, like if we think he can at least hit 2018 numbers, meaning 1,400 total yards from scrimmage, which I think is doable. 10 touchdowns, maybe a few more. There's going to be a market for him. All right, free agency there, and that market value is going to be probably two-thirds higher than what the Steelers are going to be willing to maybe give him to come back. It just does not sound feasible, especially when you're looking at a running back position being fungible and all that goes along with that in the cap situation. It would have to be that, once again, revenues came in a lot higher than what they thought, and even high enough that maybe even a cap even jumped up from 198.2 million and all. So just sit back and relax and hope Connor stays healthy, has a 1,500-yard from scrimmage season or not more, and that he cashes in big time in free agency, and it results in a nice compensatory draft pick value for the Steelers.
Three more questions. Chad Weiss, what's going to happen with the live stream 2 weeks from tonight? That'll be the Monday night game before the Giants. We're still going to hope to have it maybe a little bit earlier, maybe do a little bit shorter. I'm not sure. I have to talk to Dave about it, but the plan is right now to have the live stream scheduled relatively as normal. Check the community tab for any posts I may have if those things get changed. The infamous Tim, who do you think is our best overall player on our team, not named Minka? It's tough between Cam and Watt. I'm gonna lean Watt just because he's the guy that has real defensive MVP, you know, candidacy. But it is pretty close between those two. Who would you take, Dave? Best
What,
player,
what,
best
that's
overall player, not named Minka. He said. I guess that's Tim saying Minka's the best player.
Yeah, look, I mean, you got to get out to the quarterback, right?
Well,
Got to
but you
get
could do
out to
that
the
with Hayward
quarterback.
or Watt. But are you going
Yeah,
Watt?
but Watt, boy, you go back and look at some of his tape from last season, the way he progressed as a pass rusher, and not only that, jarring that football loose too.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and that's not taking anything away from Cameron Hayward whatsoever. But and plus Watt's younger too, and yeah, I mean, all do, and Lord knows I got a lot of respect for Cameron Hayward, but
Sure.
yeah, give me Watt there.
Last question from Robert Washington. Greetings, Alex and Dave. How much is Terrell Edmonds set to make next year versus Vince Williams, and which one would you guys rather resign? Well, I guess the contracts
You're
end the same
talking
year.
about,
Yeah.
you're talking about half. I mean, Terrell Edmonds cost you half of what Vince Williams got, a $4 million salary due in 2021. Terrell Edmonds almost $2 million and all like that. And uh, Edmonds would really have to have a awful season to even get in the conversation of being cut material
Hmm.
there. So, and Williams is going to be another year older, and I mean, let's face it, something would Vince Williams' ceilings probably at most what 650 700 snaps this season, and that's
Hmm.
high. That's probably somebody missing a game with an injury or two, along those lines there. uh, uh you know once again, it's going to take Edmonds really, really falling on his face to be the one that I would choose cutting instead of Vince Williams. That's not disrespect for Vince Williams. My best case scenario, I think for Vince Williams, honestly, I really think, and I think it's plausible as well too, is you go to Vince Williams after the season's over and you say, look, you see what maybe the market's going to be out there. Are you willing to play for one more season for right at the million, veteran million minimum of roughly 1.1 million dollars, and that kind of being the best case scenario. I just can't see it being plausible where you keep Vince Williams at 4 million and part ways with a Terrell Edmonds at
Hmm.
almost 2 million.
Yeah, I don't see them parting away with Edmonds, though. Are you playing Vince the same number of snaps in 2021 for a quarter of the money? Is that the conversation that you would have with him?
I mean, ideally, he wouldn't hit 275 snaps,
Mm.
for $1 million.
Yeah, we'll see. I just hard to see Vince doing that, but that may be the only option he would have to stay in Pittsburgh. And when you started that answer saying half, you give me real Eddie Murphy Raw flashbacks there.
Half, I
Half.
want half. I
I'm
want
so
half, Eddie.
I'm so glad you get that
Eddie,
reference.
Eddie, I want half.
That's a good
Oh
impersonation.
Lord, I used to be able to recite both raw and delirious to
Mm.
you.
Which do you
So
like more? I liked Raw a lot more than Delirious.
man, it's been so long since I've actually gone. I can't remember. They both. I mean, we would have fun on the bus. Just rattling that stuff off. I can't remember which one it would be over the other one, but two just great comedy albums for
Hmm.
sure.
All right, Dave. On that note, we're going to wrap up the live stream. We will be back next Monday. Thank you guys so much for asking all the questions and being here. Really appreciate it. And yeah, you can catch an archive on this on the website on my YouTube channel in a little bit as well. So, Dave, thank you so much for being here.
All right, glad I could be here, and peace and love to everybody who joined us tonight.